Welcome, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Learning Strategies with Kate Benson. Good to see you all. Let me see who is here. Well, Yvonne, welcome. I think Jeroen is hanging around. Frits, Katelijne, Anja, all welcome. And of course, all the way from the UK, Jane is also arrived. Excellent. Great that you all showed up. That is wonderful. The topic for today is creating great learning states, and the one and only person who can explain it to us is none other than Kate Benson. So let's put her on the show. Welcome, Kate.
Hello, Joost. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here again.
Yes, well, you're very welcome. And I realized two things. The first thing is that I get to speak to you every week now.
Yes, I'm just moving my camera a bit. It's a bit too close. It's like, yes, every week for as long as we can stand it, Joost.
Yes, so that is wonderful. I can stand this for the coming decades to come. So it might be that.
Seems to be a long time. We spend a lot of time not talking to each other in the last couple of years.
Yes.
Which has been very strange.
Corona has destroyed much more than just lives and bodies. It's also destroyed lots of relationships.
Yeah. But it hasn't destroyed ours. It's just put it on pause for a while, and now we're back at full strength.
Yes, excellent. And you are coming to Amsterdam.
Yes.
September 17th, September 18th. I'll put the link in the chat so that people can come to Amsterdam all over the world. That is the English link. But we also have a Dutch link. Let me see if I can find that one very quickly.
Is that for a mini conference we're doing then?
Yes, we're doing a mini conference.
So, and then we're probably going to do teaching excellence over in the UK well, it was going to be October, but I think it's going to be the first week in November now. Well, so I haven't even announced that yet. So that can be the first people to know.
Yeah, premier chance for people here to sign up.
Yeah, that's right.
They might not be able to sign up yet.
So no, they can't sign up yet. You know, I'm not very organized about these things.
The second thing that I realized was that you can't mess up my training room this way.
No, that's true. I can't. No.
You're always making such a lot of weird stuff around going on whenever you do live training.
Yes, I do. I know. It's very difficult on Zoom. We're going to talk about Zoom a bit today because it's very difficult not being able to mess up this state as well. I have to, and it's very difficult for me. I have to sit still. I'm going to figure out, actually, I'm going to turn my library, which is where I am now, into, somewhat belatedly, because some people have done this already, into a sort of studio where I can move around and I can still mess up at least my space.
Well, I'm doing all these streams standing up. It's so much better to do it.
I know. I'm gonna experiment with this over the next few weeks.
I have such.
I've got it just right here, and then I've got to figure out how to do it standing up.
I got a moving desk so that I can move it up, and then I can.
Right. It's supposed to be very good for you standing up to do stuff.
Yes. Sitting is the new smoking.
Right. Okay. Well, enough of this chit chat.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to create a great learning state for you and for all the people watching and listening.
Oh, I see. Jumping ahead, are we? Jumping ahead. That's
so
right.
The topic is creating great learning states. We did last week. People, if they want to see it again, can watch it on YouTube or on the podcast. People preferred YouTube so far. And this last time we talked about preparing people for learning. And now we are going to move to creating great learning states. That my question is that the same, or are there two different steps in a whole process towards learning?
Well, that's a good question. And I wanted to sort of clarify something because we got ourselves tied in knots over my model last week, I think. Because you got yourself because you wanted it renamed. So just as a point of clarification,
yes,
I've sort of thought this through. I thought what was going on there. And for those people who are watching this who came last week, all those people who are going to watch it who were here last week, and for the people who weren't here last week, let's do a quick recap. And then that leads on, because what we did last week leads on. It's a step. It's not entirely different. It's not stop, break, start again. It's a sequence. It's a process.
Right.
So can we just have a quick look at this modified slide now, which I hope makes you happier, Jos.
Yes.
You were not happy with it last week. So last week, the debate was, well, so my clarification is this, that learning is a behavior. But it's just, so what we lacked last week, what I wanted to bring to this slide this week is that what we're talking about here is a model in a context. So it's not a universal model, and it's a model, so it's not true, but within a context, it's useful. And it's useful to think about what is desirable in a learning environment and what is undesirable. And what is desirable is learning, which is a specific set of behaviors, as opposed to not learning or, singing a song or just watching the TV or doing something where learning is not particularly involved. So learning is a desired behavior in a learning context. Behaviors that are undesirable are those behaviors that block or stop the person or other people in that context learning.
Right. Yes.
So that's my clarification. So given that clarification, what we want to do when we encounter behavior that is undesirable, we want to get that person to comply.
Yes.
Rather than commit, because we just want them to comply. We want them to sit down and shut up long enough for the learning to get going.
Yes, but you want them to comply with incompatible desired behavior, incompatible to the undesired behavior.
I want them to comply with my desire. This is, look, basically one of the things we have to remember is what John Laval says, that, learning environments are not democracies. They are benign dictatorships. And in order to get learning going, which is the subject of today, we need students, sometimes we need a degree, not massive, but a degree of compliance.
Right.
In order so that everybody is on the same hymn sheet about what we're doing here.
Yes.
What you often get in
this situation. Comply with desired behavior.
Yes, you want them to comply with the desired behavior, which is a pre-step to learning in this sense, which is a desired behavior which enables the learning to start.
Exactly.
Or, to get into the right state for it or whatever. Yeah. So it's a pre-step. We want them to, as I say, come in, sit down, shut up, get on with it. So that's what I mean by compliance, that degree. I don't care whether they're interested in sitting in the right place. I don't care whether or not they're happy about that or they're really engaged with that idea. I just want them to do it.
Yes. But one more small question. But that desired behavior, like sitting still on their chair and keeping their mouth closed and stuff like that, although that's not all behavior, but let's not get into those details. But those are incompatible with the undesired behaviors of moving around and making noise.
Yes, I suppose so. Yes.
That's all.
Yes, all right. Let's not make too much. This is just a brief recap, Jos. We're not redoing that last week. So we want the person.
We want to go deep.
When we've got desire, when we've got behavior that is unhelpful, let's put it different, unhelpful to the person as the learner, to me as the teacher or trainer, and to other participants and other learners, any one of those. We want to get them to comply with some other behavior, change that behavior, if you like. The comply. When I say comply, what I mean is I don't care. I want them to change their behavior, but I don't mind. I'm not going to argue with them about it. I'm not going to convince them that it's a good thing. I just want them to do it.
And you don't care how they feel about it?
No, I don't care how they feel about it, because I want to close down the thinking about it, so that they don't even really bother to have a feeling about it, because I've just closed the thinking down. And I don't want to have a conversation with them about it. I don't want them to ask me questions about why I'm asking them to sit on that chair. I just want them to do it. And I want them to forget about it as quickly as possible and disassociate from any potential negativity associated with me or the situation, so that we can move to that desired behavior, which is the learning.
Yes.
And then what we want in learning is we want commitment to that. We want engagement. We want people to feel enthusiastic about it. Because when people comply, basically the driver behind compliance is power. It's me exercising my power. But the driver behind commitment is something that we share in terms of values. We both want it. We desire it. We want it. We were on the same page about it.
Yes.
So that's when people display commitment, when we're in agreement about what we're doing. And then we want to open.
Can I interrupt one more? Because I'm looking through this at the ABC model of Skinner. And then he would say compliance is followed by the threat of negative reinforcers, of negative consequences. As what you call power, I can actually give you negative consequences. So we call that negative reinforcement. Where commitment, then you share a positive outcome, a positive consequence that people will get once they commit to the behavior.
Yeah, but compliance, you can also get compliance in a more positive way. You can get it because if you comply, then I'll give you this.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be a negative consequence, or it can be, you sit in that chair and I'll give you a sticker and a sweet. That's the person, they go like, okay, I fancy a sweet. Well, it's not a major commitment. I'll do it because I want the sweetie.
Right.
Or I want the sticker, or I want us to stop nagging at me, or I want to stop feeling bad. Whatever the compliance is, it doesn't have to be a negative thing, because I'm not completely on board with Skinner. But I think
Skinner would also like if people comply. Actually, he would like it much better if people comply through positive reinforcement. I was just trying to translate your word of power. But then you say I'm the power in this context because I'm the one who can deliver either positive or negative consequences.
Yes, that's right. I am the holder of those things temporarily at those times. Yes. Or you are, not just me. You are, and you as trainers are. So then once we've moved to that desired learning, that desired state of learning, we want to open up the thinking, because that's when learning happens. We don't want people closed down. We don't want them to go, no, I've done this before. We want them to open up their thinking with that, oh, that's interesting. Those sorts of thoughts, because we then want to promote questioning, so that learning starts to happen, and we want them to remember all the good stuff about that and to associate into their experience. So that was just a bit of clarification. Go on.
Yes, that's not a question for you, but it's a remark for all the viewers. So we also want to open up your thinking and promote questioning.
We
do. If you have questions or remarks, or you disagree with us, or you disagree with me and you agree with Kate, also happens.
Of course, you'll do that.
Please put it in the chat. We love to see your remarks and stuff coming in.
Yes, and I like questions that are not just from Joost, because he asks the most. His whole life is devoted to asking me awkward questions, it seems. But I don't mind that either. But I'd like other people's questions too. So I want to leave that.
My whole life is devoted to asking awkward questions. Period.
I know. That's it. The philosopher within you. So So I hope that makes that clear. So what we were doing last week, folks, we were looking at how to stop the undesired behavior so we could get to the learning really quickly, which is where we were. So now we want to look at, so we're now looking at desired behavior. How do we create the state for learning that enables people to engage, in a really happy and healthy and quick way? Because learning should not be slow, boring, miserable, and tedious. It should be fast. Best learning happens quickly. So, and I was thinking about this because we're sort of running a program. This program is loosely based on some work that Joost and I were doing a few years ago, and I revisited it with today in mind. And of course, a lot of things have changed when we think about what is our learning state. The biggest change for most of us over the last 2 years is we spent a lot of time doing this. Learning online, learning on Zoom calls. You know, we are zoomed out.
This is much better than Zoom.
Well, it is for us. I don't know whether, all right, we're online. So we're doing a lot of this online, which is talking head stuff.
Yes.
So it's really is as Yo says, I can't mess up his classroom. Now, the reason that I mess up his training room is because I get people up, moving, doing things, making things, using their hands, getting creative, all sorts of different ways of learning. So it becomes increasingly challenging when which is a limited channel of communication. We can only see each other, we can only hear each other, and we can't we haven't got all of our senses. We can't smell stuff, we can't taste stuff, we can't do stuff.
Hit people.
We can't hit people. No, we can't touch people. We can't give them a hug. We can't do that anyway anymore. Hugging's gone now. We've had hugging. So I was thinking about, and a lot of people are talking about what you can and can't do on Zoom, or online, talking heads.
You have one moment before you move to the next topic, because we have a question from Jane.
Oh yes, hello Jane.
It would be good to see a picture model of this concept in full clarity. Your teaching excellence model. Have finished your book, Kate, in case it is in there.
Which model? A picture model of this concept. Which concept, Jane, is my question. You want the whole of teaching excellence in one picture?
I think maybe the how to use Zoom model.
Oh, the how to. Well, we're sort of developing that, and let's jump to the end. I haven't got a model for it, but I have got some suggestions and some pointers for it.
Good.
So,
what to do on Zoom?
Well, what to do on Zoom?
Oh,
rather than what not to do. In terms of the first steps. So, one of the things that I was thinking about was, let's just look for a moment at what the normal, our normal experience is, and which is then, if you like, exacerbated by online learning media. Is that a good word? I keep saying Zoom, but I mean, we've got Teams and Google Teams, and we've got Twitch, and we've got all that. Have we got a generic term for all of those things, Jos?
Well, I would say live streams.
Live streaming. Okay, live streaming. Okay, that'll do. I'll use that.
So, one moment. Sorry to interrupt you again. But
no, it's
Jane
all right.
has clarified what she was saying. She says the one you just talked about, the exact way to engage the student into the learning process.
Yes, that's what it's about now.
Okay, but she wants to have a picture model of it.
No, not yet. I'll work on it. Maybe I'll draw one for next week. I don't know if I can come up with it. I'll see. Let's see where we get. So we're thinking about, let's just back up a bit. Let's look at a normal learning situation, if you like, where you've got a person in a room with a group of people. Now that can be a presentation, doesn't have to be a teaching situation, as it could be a training situation, that's with adults, could be the distinction between a teaching and and the word teaching and training for me is primarily length and relationship.
Right.
So because people often ask me, what's the difference between teaching and training? I will never describe myself as a trainer, even though I might run a training program. I'll always describe myself as a teacher, because once you are my students, you have me for life. That's my relationship thing. So
we will do this for decades.
Yes. Generally speaking, a teaching goes on for quite a long period of time and involves creating relationships. Where there's a training program, you might go on a I don't know, how to bid for grants training or something, which will be like 2 hours, and it's a short, get in there, get the information, get out. So that's for me more of a training than teaching. But essentially, where a lot of NLP trainers are actually teachers, because they have quite a long length of time. The courses go on for quite a long period of time, and people come back for more things and stay with it, like your students do.
I often have a relationship of a couple of years with people when I'm training them. But I like the word trainer so much more than teacher. Maybe it's about my bad experiences.
It could be. So, and there is no exact definition on that. Makes a distinction. You have to work it out. But the reason I make that point is that people often say, when I say teaching, people assume you're talking about children.
Right.
Where in fact, for me, I'm not. Richard Bandler uses the term teacher to describe his work. He doesn't ever call himself a trainer, but John Laval calls himself a trainer. So
yes. Richard Bandler is, of course, the world teacher of the whole planet. So
of course he is. Yes,
it's a different kind of teacher.
It is. Yes, that's right. He's like Gandhi.
Right. But, at least in his head.
I don't know, in my head maybe.
And in other heads, yes.
So we have a situation where we're running. So it could be a presentation. You could be presenting to your sales team. You could be pitching for for a new job. You could be, all of these things require people to pay attention to you and learn something from you. Even if it is learning about you. So that those are all learning situations. And we've all been in a situation where we spend a lot of time focusing on what we're going to do. What is it that we're teaching? So the content becomes paramount. Second to that is the way we're going to teach it, the how. And thirdly is getting people ready for that process. So we spend most of our time preparing the content, less of our time. It's usually 80% on content, 20% on process. And I don't know, half the time people don't even make any attempt to think about getting people ready.
Right.
If you're an NLP trainer, you do, because we are taught that on the trainers program. But it's still rather an aside, and it's not very obvious that that's a key factor. So in my book, we turn that right round. The biggest chunk of my time is spent on how, the process. So that for me has to be the biggest chunk. The smallest chunk is the content, because I should know that, because otherwise I shouldn't be in front of somebody if I haven't got that at my fingertips.
Yeah.
And thirdly, the very important thing, the first thing to pay attention to before you start any of that stuff is how are the people going to be in the right place for learning? And we've all been in a situation, and I'm sure the participants here have, where we're all up for it, we're enthusiastic, we've got a great session planned, we've spent hours on it, and we go in and we're faced with sort of the zombie dead.
You mean the Dutch?
That's so rude.
Well,
so you go in and they're not in the right mood, or they've just come out of a training session, or that they didn't enjoy, or it's pouring down with rain, or it's Friday evening and everybody wants to go home, or there's a whole set of reasons why people will not be up for what you want them to do. So we have to pay attention to that. And that then becomes even more exacerbated by Zoom, because you've got this other medium, which is the how. That's taken over the how are we doing this?
Yes.
And even quite, sensible people are saying, oh, you must limit your Zooms to an hour and a half. Well, if you're not going to sort of keep things moving for people in that hour and a half, even that'll be too long. And people do something called a cost-benefit analysis. I'm holding my hands up here as a sort of thing. So what we say is that that's like, we've got a cost benefit. Am I better off in this room or on this Zoom call with you, or am I better off doing something else? And people do that cost benefit analysis on a moment by moment basis.
It's the ABC model from Skinner. Whatever is going to be the most positive consequences, that's the behavior they're going to do.
And of course, it's so easy on Zoom, because you can turn your camera off, you can turn your sound off, you can pet your dog, you can just go and make a cup of tea. So how do you keep people, absolutely massively engaged? Now, one of the ways that and this is a natural process. Everybody knows that there's somebody who walks in the room, who lights it up, who makes them feel good. And they just leak good stuff.
Right.
So that gives us the key to the first step. So the very first thing that we need to do is think about our state.
Right.
That's the big one.
Feelings are contagious.
Feelings are contagious, yeah. So I'm going to ask a question now of the audio, of everybody, and you can all type in your answers because I'd like to see what these are. On Zoom, what are your 3 specific states that help you and support you to learn well? So think about a time when you've been really engaged, like now, hopefully, with Zoom,
well,
not with Twitch or with online learning.
Yeah. I've one thing before. Just go ahead with the question, and then people get time to ask there about. Hi, Master Patatje, of Patje, moment by moment decisions. I thought maybe we play a little bit of stand-up comedy about the Dutch being these dead zombies, so you can see it's not just my opinion, and it might also be a way to get people into a great state. Do you mind that?
No, go on. We would like to a quick change of pace. It's always good.
Yes, but still, please do ask the question so then people can answer the question while.
What, you want me to carry on now whilst you're looking for it?
No, I have it ready.
Oh.
I just have to. Well, you're too late. So here we go.
Okay.
My favorite Australian stand-up comedy, Steve Huge, on the Dutch silence.
Oh, right. I was going to talk about this in a minute as well. It's funny that you do this. You'll make my point for me. Go on, then. Let's see.
Here we go.
Go on, mate. It's fucking silence down the profound art form. You understand? It's fucking stunning, right? It's in the vortex of quiet.
Well, this is not the best recording.
Right. Hello. It's very Swedish, isn't it? A smorgasbord of women. Yeah, fucking perfect height as well. Well, you do have good-looking women here. I grew up in the Australian underground death metal scene. I was the hottest-looking woman in it. So it was the shortest beard. So. It's good, Sweden. I've been here before. I have many Swedish friends. They're all yes, Steve. We're having a great time. We are going crazy here. Yeah, I can tell. See, Irish people are very open. Like if you went backpacking or something in Ireland, you get drunk with a bunch of men you've never even met before. By the end of the night, they'd be going, so where you fucking stand?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Crashing.
Now we've lost the sound. Preparation, Joost. Preparation.
This is...
good luck in finding somewhere to stay. If you're still here in a year, perhaps I will tell you my name. I'm very grateful because your English is superb. It's brilliant. And you have a good sense of humour. I did the Dutch first when I did European
Here we go.
gigs, and that's still the fucking hardest. You can make them laugh. I've done it. You know, you make the Dutch laugh, they laugh. It's just if you don't make them laugh, they will stare at you till you fucking cry. There's no heckling, there's no get off your shit, there's just... It's profound silence. I stood in front of 300 Dutch people one night. It was so quiet. I'm just standing there thinking to myself, you know, no wonder those Nazis couldn't find that Anne Frank bitch. The Germans are here, be quiet, no problem.
Okay, I'm not sure whether that worked really well, but at least it was an experiment.
Well, we get the idea. No, it's and of course there are cultural differences, and it was quite interesting. Just to illustrate that one, which question I have to answer? Oh, right, okay, I'm coming to this. Joost is just distracting us again with his it was very good pattern interrupt, I have to say. A little bit of an explanation, but next time you need to be better prepared with your clip, Joost.
Yes, but this is just on the spur of the moment.
So yeah, well, we can do spur of the moment. So, so the question is, which 3 specific states will help you or support you in learning via Zoom? So I just want you to think about that for a minute. What are the 3 ways you need to feel and think, because that's what makes up state, what you're thinking and feeling and imagining, and what are the 3 that you would go to or do go to? So if you think about when you've been really engaged on an online learning, that's the state when you go like, oh yeah, I was up for it then. So Jane's got curious for the learning, mind of the student. Yeah, okay, that's good. That's 2. What's your 3rd? We need 3.
Is it only 1? Curious of the.
Oh, that's
for the learning mind of the student.
Oh, I see. Okay, curious for the learning mind. So for me, for example, I'll just give you an example of mine. One of them, key. Oh, and courtesy. Yeah, that would be nice. That's always good. Feel great. Now you see, we go for these big nominal, like feel great. Anybody who's been on a training course, an NLP training course, which I guess most of you have, one of the early, yeah, good, alert, curious, nice. Those are good ones. When we go on a training course, an NLP training course, have you ever noticed that one of the first, when you're learning to create states, usually the first one is great. Oh, hi, Orlando. Curiosity, calm, and anticipation. Nice. Yeah. So we go on these courses, and the first thing we do is an exercise, or almost the first thing is an exercise for creating a great learning state. NLP trainers are not stupid, you know. That means that you're doing the work for yourself then. Rather than them having to do it. To keep me focused. Yeah, focus is a good one. So mine would be enthusiasm, which I tend always to want to bring into a training situation. Focus and quiet attention. Now, focus and quiet attention wouldn't necessarily always be my... no, don't put that up yet, Joost.
Sorry for my initiative.
That's all right. Don't show any initiative.
I'm going to comply.
In a minute. I just want them to think for themselves. So those wouldn't be my necessarily first go-to states. Focus would be, but quiet attention. You can imagine I don't do a lot of quiet attention unless I'm curled up in the corner reading a book. But if I am, then that's the state, one of the states that I want. Oh, that's nice. Humor, time to respond, myself switched by surprise. Those are all lovely. So we want to take the 3 states, and then we take an NLP process or technique. And these, if you're an NLP, you'll have a number of different options for this. The ones that, the option that Joost and I would go to normally for our go-to creating a great state would be an NHR process, neurohypnotic repatterning process, which is spinning feelings. So you take the first feeling, and you can do this for yourself whilst you're sitting there now. Take the first feeling, whatever that is, and spin it. Notice which way it's moving. Pay attention to it moves, because all feelings move, otherwise they habituate and then you don't notice them. So as it moves, spin it more in the direction that intensifies the feeling. So it's just to the perfect point. And then bring the next feeling in and spin that, which might actually begin to create a new feeling, slightly different from the 2 separate feelings, because when we combine them, we create more nicer, newer states. And then as you build that one, bring the 3rd feeling in and spin that and start to expand that new feeling, that combination feeling, out throughout your body so that you have a whole body experience. And the best thing to do is to carry on doing that for the next 20 minutes or so to build a really, really good state. But hopefully you're all starting to feel even more motivated and even happier to be here on this online learning with us. Now you've actually found your perfect learning state. And notice how it changes your experience. Because one of the rules of wanting to change somebody else's state or create a really good state in somebody else is to go first. You go first. And if you don't go first, they ain't going to come with you. Lots of people might have walked into a room, and I've been into staff rooms in colleges, and there's a member of staff saying, I just wish my students were more motivated.
Me too.
Yeah, I just can't imagine why they're not. So we have to take the state with us. We bring that with us primarily. So when you do that, now you've done that, what changes for you? Maybe you can tell us that. What changes for you? See, you like this, but one of the things I like about Zoom is I can see the whites of their eyes, so I know when they've made the change. You're not here. I have to imagine that they've done.
My eyes.
I can see yours. I can see yours. Yeah. You have to replace all the students.
Yes. Now I say if you're moving from a live teaching or a training environment to Zoom, then that's already a big change, and you have to be much better at presenting in the form of a monologue rather than have a dialogue or interaction with your students.
Yeah, well, this is what's nice about this. So can you put that slide up now, the one that I...
1 second, because then if you move to Twitch, it becomes even harder, because now we are just talking among each other. That is easy. But if you do it on your own, you're just talking to a screen with no one.
No, well, that's one of the reasons why I like to be able to see my students. Yes, but I'm happy to do this because this is your medium, so I'm quite happy to do that.
But there's a question. Is this a NLP strategy for combining those feelings for an optimal state of learning? I get a bit confused if I should combine my feelings or the one suggested by you.
Oh, no, your feelings, not mine. No, I was just giving you an example of mine. The states that I would combine for an online learning would be those three: enthusiasm, focus, and a quiet attention. That would be what works for me. What works for you is absolutely what works for you. So don't take mine, take yours.
I also think that what is confusing is that with neurolinguistic programming, NLP, then you focus on one feeling and spin that feeling really well. But with neurohypnotic repatterning, which is a bit of a different technology than NLP, there you try to come up with new states by trying to stuff like what happens if you combine the different feelings. So you can choose whether you prefer to have being a feeling purist, where you say, no, this is just such a beautiful feeling, I'm going to keep it as it is, or where you think, hey, I'm going to mix and match, see if I can come up with complete new states. Well, actually, it would be more design human engineering than neurohypnotic repatterning.
But also, you know, if you can change states and slide anchors and stack anchors, if that's your go-to methodology as an NLPer, then those are fine too. There are a myriad of ways of changing states. So I'm introducing the idea of the NHR one because that's what you and I do. So we like that. Yeah. And it's actually it's easier, faster, and sort of more powerful, we find. But if people haven't experienced that, doesn't mean that you can't create states in a myriad of different ways. And DHE, traditional NLP, has its methodologies, as do other forms of NLP. So that's fine. I disagree with you on one point. I do find that
Disagree with whom?
With you.
With me. Impossible.
I do find that actually there isn't a single state. If you go for one state, in terms of learning, there's not enough resource provided. So if you go for enthusiasm, it becomes nominalized. So it's really big, but with enthusiasm without any focus isn't that great for a learning state. So one pure state isn't necessarily going to give you the benefits of having 2 or 3 going on at the same time.
Well, let's have a big discussion on this, because I think
we need to get to the point of this, because we haven't answered the question yet. So we're not going to have a big discussion. We'll have a little discussion.
A little big discussion. So if you're mixing feelings, so you say you start with enthusiasm and you add focus to the mix, you end up still with one feeling, which might be focused enthusiasm or enthusiastic focus.
Yeah, okay, I get that. Yes, you're right. You're right. Of course, just. However, I'm going to reframe this in a different. I'm going to restate it in a different way. What we want is a more refined state, which we find, which as humans, it's quite difficult to find a single word for. So focused enthusiasm is difficult from enthusiasm and different from focus, but I agree, you could say it's still one feeling, but it's a more focus. So it's that combination of thinking very precisely about what would be the best state. Now, one of the big mistakes I think that NLP trainers often make is they're always going for the big, easy, loud states. They go for the way, and I remember doing my master practitioner, and I thought, if somebody asked me to create and generate a state of enthusiasm another day, or want and go for it another day, I'm going to sort of, that's right. It's just like, please, can we do something else? So often the mistake is to go for the big stuff, because you see, as a trainer, you can see that happening. Now, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example of this. I was once asked onto stage. I'm not going to mention who it is. Some of you know who this is, but I'm not going to mention who it is. I was invited onto stage.
Tom Grinder?
No.
Oh,
as a demo subject for creating a state, and for them to show how using hypnosis you created a wonderful state. And I was told to pick a state that I wanted and not say what it was. So the idea was that then people would sort of guess it or know it, because it would be leaking out of my pores. So I chose compassion. And, which is a very still state for me. And the more they did it, the stiller I got, the calmer I got, the quieter, the more. So there was less and less and less going on. Really upset the trainer. Anyway, that's another story.
Yes. So I actually I want to add to this. I completely agree. My first point is, let's first say Master Patje says, thanks for the clarification. Feeling is intensified new state. That is great. So my first point is if you are going to agree with me so fast as you just did, then we're never going to have big discussions. It will be very, very small. So keep it up. The second point is that one of my favorite examples of a positive feeling is the interest in a philosophical problem, which is an officially recognized positive state, but it's very, very, very low intensity as a feeling, because it's not like we go, oh, I feel interested in a philosophical problem.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's
actually these
like that, or it's like that.
Yeah. So, and actually the very low intensive feelings, so feelings have an intensity. It's one of the submodalities for those people who know submodalities, which, by the way, is no longer just NLP. There's a neuroscientist who uses it, Tononi. So now it's no submodalities are no longer NLP. It's just science. It's neuroscience. Tononi is using them.
Finally, recognition.
No, I don't.
Not recognition. Just
although I think he, reading him, a couple of other scientists that I follow as well, I guess that they have done NLP, but they sneaked it into their science. It's great. So now we can say submodalities, as is used by the neuroscientist Tononi. We all know him. But so feelings have intensity, and it are these low intense. Or enthusiasm has a high intensity. But the low intense feelings are often very interesting, because lots of mystical experiences where people claim that they just know something, actually, when you are going to do submodality elicitation, then you discover that these are very low intense feelings that they have, and then they claim they know it without sensing it, but it's just a sense that is very below the radar.
Yeah, so, that's right. Yeah, and then also some intense feelings can not necessarily involve much animation.
Definitely, yes.
You know, love is a massively intense feeling, but it doesn't make me run round, you know, whooping at the top of my voice.
Yes,
it's a very still state. So, okay.
One more example is what I also like is that Richard Bandler has a clear preference for people who have a full body laugh. They go, But Nietzsche is one of my favorite philosopher. He says, no, you should just do this very small smile where you go, So, and I think,
I think Richard has, but I think you're right. But I think Richard has that preference because every demonstration subject he has isn't about what they're doing. It's about whether or not the audience get it. So if he's wanting to generate laughter in the audience, then the best demo subject is going to be somebody who's big and loud and has a really full body laugh, which is more likely to trigger that in the audience, because that's the other thing that people sit there saying, oh, I wish Richard Bandler would have me on stage. No, you get more of the experience if you're not on stage than if you are. And most of the people on stage, most of the people come off stage going, well, what happened?
Yes, well, I've been on stage and I thought it would have been better for me if I was in the audience and looking at the demonstration.
Yeah. So let's move on because we've only got 15 minutes and I want to get to the next key point. So creating...
One moment, because it's a good point about Richard. So do you, because this is, of course, I'm happy that other people watch as well, but if I want to learn from you, I want to learn all of it. So you think that Richard might privately off stage also like these small intense smiles?
I don't know. I don't know that for an answer, but what I'm saying is I'm not saying he likes that. I'm saying that having people who have a big whole body experience and a big laugh on stage is beneficial for when you're demonstrating. It may be that he also likes it because, you know, we are in NHR, we're always talking about full body experiences. Right. But I certainly see that people who have big gestures, you know, if you're training large numbers of people, there are a couple of things you have to do, which this is for another day. But one of the things is you have to make your movements bigger so that the audience can see them. Now so if you've got a demo subject, you want them to do that as well. So looking for people who have big movements and loud laughter and are very, you know, sort of noticeable in their state changes are useful when you're using demo subjects. Orlando, 4 years later, still no idea what happened for 90 minutes. Yeah, that's right. That's the thing. It was nothing to do with you, Orlando. That's the issue. So now we've got our fantastically generated state. Let's think about how we then transmit that and impart that into our students. Because what we can't often do, if you're running an NLP training, then fine, you can go and say, let's generate those fantastic learning states and use an NLP process to do it. But that's probably not appropriate in your sales team meeting or your classroom with 5-year-olds or your teenagers who think you're, you know, boring old so-and-so anyway. Or, you know, there's a lot of context where that isn't appropriate. And also you haven't got the time. Because if you have, you know, a short training session or you're running a class of an hour, I mean, most classes aren't much more than that, then you need to get to it quite fast. But starting with your state is great. Actually, now on the other slide, can we put the next slide up, because that's what we've done. So that previous slide was the states that we've just done, how to get into our state. And now, how do we move that for our students? The first thing is we're modeling our state. By being in it, we don't have to do anything else other than be in it. And that models that state.
Be in it, you mean feel it?
Feel it, yeah. Feel that state, be in that state. People talk about modeling something. Well, no, the easiest way to model it is just to experience it, and it will leak. The bigger you make it, however, which is what we were just talking about in terms of being able to observe it, the bigger the state, the more it'll leak into the room. And you want to almost to be sort of, you know, the leaking out of your pores and spreading over people. I often imagine it went in my trainings that my state literally encompasses everybody in the room.
And don't you shoot it out through all the participants and then pull it back in when it reaches the end of the room?
No, I don't do that. I just envelop them in it. I just wrap them in it, bathe them in it. So I don't pull it back again. I just connect it in. I use lines of light sometimes. I imagine I'm connecting in with lines of light. Whatever visualizations work, but you want to make it big.
I visualize myself as a vampire shooting out energy, then drawing it back in, and just take a little bit extra from everyone, and then it feels great.
Well, you can do that, but I'm not going to do that with my students.
Okay.
I'm going to give my good feelings to them for free. And
I gave it to them for free.
And then you pull it all back again. Right.
Yeah, but energy is like a candle. With one candle, you can light thousands of other candles without your own candle not being diminished in the light whatsoever.
Absolutely, and you can do that without pulling it all back in again.
Well.
Right. So once so you know, and again, that might be a big, loud, big state, but it might be a really quiet state. So, you know, if you're a science teacher and you're going into a science room and you want them to, and they're going to be doing an experiment, then you need quiet focus. So that's what you model, that quiet focus. If you want reflection, then that again is not going to be a massively bouncing about state. One of the mistakes I used to make was I was constantly bouncing around the room, throwing sort of good feelings around the place. It was A, exhausting, and B, wasn't very helpful if I wanted my students to sit quietly and read a chapter of a book or reflect on something or make notes about something. So it's really important to think, how do you want them to be?
I just want them to go in trance.
Yeah, you do, because you're an NLP trainer, but you're not teaching other stuff. So how do you want them to be in that particular environment, that particular scenario? And it'll change. Now, so being like that is the first thing, but then using your language elegantly. So you want to make some statements that encompass that state. So you don't want to be just saying, for example, okay, gang, get yourself into 5 groups, which is an instruction. You might want to say, I'm wondering how creative you could be in getting yourself into 5 groups. So you're triggering with your language. What are you triggering in that? You're triggering that you want them to be creative.
Oh, sorry, creative.
Creative. Yes. If you say to them, just focus your attention on what you're seeing on the screen as you take your seats. We're starting to use the language patterns of NLP to connect in what they're doing with how we want them to be. So that we can utilize, as we get them ready quickly and easily into the right learning state that we want them to be in, whilst we're doing all the ordinary boring stuff. So we don't, again, just like last week, we don't waste a word.
Never waste a word.
Never waste a word, no. So and then we want to, then you want to have something in your opening, and this is, so that takes seconds. Okay, so that process, you're in the state, you get yourself in the state, you exude that state, takes seconds. You use a few key terms to make sure that you're embedding that state within the student's consciousness and thinking and feeling, and then you create a little exercise or something that just builds that state a bit more. So it could be a puzzle, and if you want them to be cooperatively working together, they solve the puzzle as a group. If you want them to be quietly focused, they do the puzzle on their own. So you just, the activity in of itself will create the state. And those people who've done teaching excellence, when we do, you know, one of the things that we often do is the very first thing that my students do is I should set this as a quiz question, really. They make themselves a fabulous badge.
Right.
It's always a fabulous badge. It doesn't have to be a fabulous badge, because I just want them to feel fabulous on the first morning with me.
Yes.
So whilst they're making a fabulous badge, they have to think about what fabulousness means. And then in order to do it, they have to find fabulousness in themselves.
Yes.
It's a really simple way. And they do that. Most of those are doing that when they have coffee before we start the training even. So I've got them in the state quickly and easily.
Do you ever think... And do you ever think about what it costs the people behind the scenes to enable the students to create fabulous badges? There have to be pencils and badges.
Exactly. Plan, preparation. But I do usually fill my suitcase up, although I have managed to get you to do a box of pens. But last time I came, I had to sort out all the ones that didn't work because they were so old. They've been there that long.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you a new set.
Good.
So, but I could say, what if it was a curious badge? What if it was a mysterious badge? What if it was a very clear badge? All of those.
Enthusiastic badge with sparkles.
Yeah, enthusiastic badge with sparkles. Yes, like Simon, who was here last week, he would have had unicorn badges with multicolours and whatever. So those 4 simple steps are all we need to be able to get the students into that right learning state. Go first, use your language, make sure your first activity, however small, just reinforces that state. And then finally create some sort of anchor so that you don't have to do it all over again next time when you want them in that state. So the badge is quite useful because they've got their badge and they wear it. So it's already an anchor. But it could be a piece of music. It could be a poster. It could be a smell. Any of the senses, or utilizing any of the senses and the submodalities to create an anchor, so that you've done it and you get there straight away. Does that make sense to everybody? Has anybody got any questions about that?
Makes sense to me, absolutely.
That's good. See, and of course, the other bit that isn't on there, which you can always use, I'm going to finish with this story because it's one of my favorite stories. You can utilize whatever they're bringing in the room. So sometimes they come in and you have to really lift the spirits and get people into a good learning state because they're not there. But other times you might have to actually calm them down. Oops. Yeah, absolutely. They use exactly the same anchors. Yeah. And people like Billy Connolly and Eddie Izzard are masters of this. And I'm sure there's plenty of Dutch comedians as well, that they just fire back the anchor whenever they need it. So it's absolutely spot on that.
So for the listeners, one moment, the question or the remark was stand-up comedians use these anchors a lot. So that makes sense.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought everybody could see those.
Everybody can see them. That's true. But once we turn these things into podcasts, then people can't see them anymore.
Okay, right. I see. Right. See, I'm learning all about this Twitch technology.
Yes.
I went into a school in Turkey to do some observations, and there was a very rather nervous teacher, and she was teaching. It was a chemistry lesson, and she was teaching chemical bonding was the subject. And the students came in, and she was exactly what we're talking about. She was massively well prepared. She had loads of material all sorted out, ready for them, and a good class. And the students came in having just had, they were 15, having just had an hour and a half with the school nurse on sex education.
Great.
So you can imagine how sort of bouncy and funny and giddy and silly they were. And instead of utilizing that energy and taking it into her chemical bonding, which you could see lots of metaphors you could use there, yes. She tried desperately to get them calm down and settle down into a quiet, reflective state. And she failed miserably, bless her, because she just didn't take what was there and go, okay, that's what I planned, but now I'm going to take what I've got in front of me and utilize it and take that energy and find some way of making use of it to get the class going and moving them gently into a little bit calmer state. So be flexible, as well as taking that 4-step process. Be flexible in terms of utilization if you encounter something that's even more exciting.
Excellent. And you're finished on the dot. So that is the sign of a great teacher / trainer. I got an hour. I'll make sure it's an hour. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. This is your final call. This is your last opportunity to actually ask questions to Kate Benson about creating great learning states.
Do you want to take that slide down so that they can see us better rather than look at that? Let's see. Oh, that way around. Oh, back that way.
Yes.
Why have I got ABC NLP above my head? Is the reason for that.
Yes, that's because ABC NLP is the newest, latest version of NLP. Where
looks like it's sitting on my bookshelf. Look.
Yes, because that is the scientific theory of NLP, by combining it by applied behavioral analysis.
I know that. I was just wondering why it was above my head and not yours.
Yes, that is the magic of streaming. Thanks, Kate and Joost. How can you avoid your state being influenced?
Well, that's a great question, and there's a lot of different ways. But the really short answer to that is the person with the most powerful state wins. So if you make your state bigger and more powerful for you, other people's state doesn't impact on you. You sort of grin wildly at them, because if we all know people like have mood hoovers, who people go in the room, they suck out all the good feelings in the room, but that won't happen if your state's big. So we've got, for example, on stage when you might also have other feelings. That's because your state's not exactly as good as it could possibly be. When you're on stage, you're having other thoughts and other feelings creeping in. But if your state is that you're there, you're amazing on stage and they all love you, then any other feelings will just be kept at bay. Yep, strongest energy wins for sure.
So the way I explain it is that we're spinning these feelings through our body. Well, in reality, we're spinning them in our brain, of course, but that is projected into our body. And most of the time, people who are masters at feeling bad are just much better at spinning those bad, negative feelings than that people who feel good are good at spinning good feelings. Yet, if you're a master at feeling good, for instance, my brain is very good at it. I'm sure Kate, her brain as well. Then we're just much better at spinning good feelings than the bad people. They're nice people, but they're feeling bad, that they are at spinning their bad feelings. And in the end, the person who keeps on spinning their own feelings, maybe, or spinning it the fastest, wins. And then he or she is going to influence the whole group.
I go along with that. I think there are a number, also the other thing that happens when people say, I'm feeling bad, is often they get a lot of negative talk coming in. So they're looking out, you may be looking out in the audience, and instead of going like, oh, they're very quiet, they must be thinking carefully about what I'm saying, you look out and think they're very quiet, they hate me. So you make decisions about what the feedback is you're getting. So you need to make good decisions about the feedback. Now, it might be you don't plow on. You know, if actually what you're doing isn't working, then it's a good idea to change it. So you need to be taking feedback, but not necessarily make yourself feel bad about it. You want to feel good about it and then do something different.
So Yvonne says, it works that Joost is listening and reacting next to you. I can identify with his reacting state. So I'm making funny faces whenever you're talking. You're completely into the thing. I go...
I can see you doing that. Well, then I'm used to you doing that when I'm talking, Joost. Anyway,
that's true.
I'm just usually waiting for the next. I have to really speak quickly before you get in there and start questioning what I'm saying. So
yes, it's good.
Joost, people may not know, Joost and I go way back now. So I think we can we understand each other quite well. Oh,
yes,
well,
we do.
I can't read that. It's in Dutch.
It is. Can you show the first slide again, Joost, and I'll take a picture of it. So okay. Here you are.
There you are.
Any other questions? If not, then we are done for today. Then we'll meet again next week on Tuesday, 1 p.m. Central European Standard Time, noon on Greenwich mean time, whatever.
Meantime, yes.
The UK, mean people from the UK.
Well, we're on British summertime. I thought we're on British summertime now.
Oh, I don't know. So.
Anyway, it's 12 o'clock UK, 1 o'clock Europe.
Yes. And then we are going to do learning strategy number 3. I have not yet checked out which strategy that is, but there is a learning strategy number 3. And we will do all about it on the next live stream next Tuesday. Tuesday next week. Yvonne says thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's lovely.
All right.
Nice to be here again.
Bye.
Questions and feedback.
See you all next week, Tuesday, or if you're Dutch, Friday, 1 p.m. Then we have our talk with the professor from the university to discuss all the political and economical stuff in the world. Completely different atmosphere than this one.
Okay, right. Take that slide down so it's not the last thing that they see before you go. That's better. Oh, we'll do it that way, right? You've got the ABC then.
Yeah, we switched around again. All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye, y'all. See you next week.